The member for Gippsland.
Thank you, Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak on the bills before the House. And it would be the easiest thing in the world to stand here and join in the government cheer squad and pass the $42 billion program without any murmurs of dissent. But in all good faith, to the people of Gippsland and to my own children, I can't support these bills which mortgage our future. I think the Prime Minister simply has not made the case yet to justify the scale and the targets of this package. I doubt that there is a single person in this parliament who doesn't appreciate the magnitude of the economic challenges which confront our nation and the world at the moment. But to suggest that we should just sit back and give the Prime Minister and the Treasurer a blank cheque, no matter how misguided or ill-conceived the plan may be, is, I believe, the height of arrogance from those in government. We would not be doing our job if we didn't at least scrutinise this legislation on behalf of the people of Australia. And it's easy to be shoveling the money out the door and give everyone a bonus, but it's damn hard to pay the bills back in the future. I fear the Prime Minister has panicked. In his desperation to be decisive, to do something, just do anything, he has panicked and come out with a package that even he admitted here yesterday in the chamber, he doesn't know if it will work. In this mad rush, the government is attempting to ram the legislation through Parliament without allowing reasonable time for due consideration of the details of a spending program which we all acknowledge is of historic proportions. Now, don't get me wrong, Speaker, I don't believe the package is completely flawed. There are several elements that I fully support, and particularly if they were downsized to more reasonable proportions. But this government is not interested in negotiating with the opposition. It's not interested in hearing the views of people on this side of the chamber, many of whom have held high office in the past and have been successful in guiding this nation through troubled times over the past decade. And I'm reminded of a quote from a good friend of mine, a member of the Upper House in the State Parliament Victoria, Mr Damien Drum. And he says that to think either side has a mortgage on what is right or what is wrong is absolute folly. And I believe there's some very reasonable people in both sides of this House, and that we could go a lot further in our deliberations of this particular package if we listen to the good ideas on both sides of the chamber, if the Prime Minister and the Treasurer could perhaps put aside their own egos for 5 minutes and actually sit down and listen to others. I think Australians would benefit in the longer term. I'm sure we would end up with a much better stimulus package if we all just took a cold shower, perhaps even for a week, and brought this back before the House, rather than be trying to ram this legislation through today without any level of negotiation. There should be more discussion and negotiation between the senior members on both sides of the House. But on to the specific details of the package, Speaker. The bonus payments is probably the one area where I have my greatest concerns. There's almost $13 billion to be given in one-off payments over the next few weeks. And these will be popular. I have no doubt that they will be popular in my electorate of Gippsland, where I have a lot of family tax aid recipients and quite a significant number of low-income earners. But even the Prime Minister admitted that the data is not even complete yet from the spending package which was initiated prior to Christmas, the $10.4 billion package before Christmas. I actually was one of the members on this side of the House who actively supported the $10.4 billion package before Christmas, because one of the primary targets of that package was the pensioners, the carers and the people with disabilities. They were the less fortunate people in my community who I'd been actively campaigning for longer-term support in terms of support payments paid by the government. So I openly supported the $10.4 billion package and encouraged people, if they had the opportunity to spend some of that money, to spend it locally and support local jobs. But it's strange that with that actual package, and I've commented on this in the past, that the government could never justify increasing pensions for the pure basis of the social justice of it, the need to help less fortunate. They had to wait till there's an economic crisis to finally do something to help the pensioners and carers and people with disabilities. So I was surprised by the Labor government, supposedly this great defender of the low-income earners and those less fortunate, wasn't prepared to assist our pensioners at a time of need, but waited for this economic crisis to justify its decision. And even if you accept that the argument that this $13 billion which the government has allocated to the bonus payments, even if you accept that that $13 billion is actually affordable to the Australian nation, why are we taking a punt like this at this time? We don't know if it will work. There has been no modelling released whatsoever to tell us whether $950 per individual is enough, whether it's too much, and I fear that once that money is gone, we'll have nothing to show for it as a nation. Now, Gippslanders will get a significant share of this money. And if you work it out based on really rough figures of $13 billion by 150 electorates, if we said there's about $87 million coming to Gippsland, I can tell you now that the people of my electorate are not as short-sighted as the Prime Minister in this regard. They would rather see that $87 million spent on safer roads, on better hospitals, improved aged care facilities, sporting grounds, swimming pools and nursing homes. There's some real infrastructure improvements that are going to be there for the longer term, not a here today, gone tomorrow cash splash, which is all we're going to see over the next months with this $13 billion program. There's a very long list in my own electorate where we could be spending this money more constructively, and I believe would actually deliver the long-term productivity improvements we're looking for as a nation as we move forward in the 21st century. The Shire of Wellington itself has regularly lobbied the government and myself in relation to a $5 million plan to help develop an indoor sports centre. Again, a much better use of the money than just the $950 one-off payments. The McAllister Irrigation District around the Maffra area has an urgent need to upgrade the irrigation channels. We're talking about one of the most productive export industries in my region, and there's no funding available for it under the National Water Plan at this stage. And also we're going to see this $950 payments being made in one-off payments to farmers. I can tell you now they would rather see some real commitment to upgrade the irrigation infrastructure in Gippsland for the longer term so their children have a future on the farm, rather than just one $950 payment, which is all they're going to see from this particular package. Gippsland Rotary Centenary House is another project which I've been speaking to the government about. It's been a very successful program. The state government in Victoria and the previous government in a bipartisan way supported the development of the Gippsland Rotary Centenary House, where local Rotary clubs have created a home away from home for people receiving cancer treatment. Tragically, the program is so successful, it's in such demand in the Latrobe Valley that we need more units, and there's a plan put before the government now to build a further 9 units. And again, the people of Gippsland would rather see some of this $13 billion spent on projects like that for longer term benefits to the cancer care treatment of people in Gippsland than a one-off payment of $950. There's an ongoing program which has received support from both sides of the House, from the Minister for Regional Development and also from the Prime Minister and the former Prime Minister, is to upgrade the Princes Highway from Traralgon to the New South Wales border. Every report that comes back from the OSRAP studies shows that the Princes Highway in Gippsland is of a lower standard than would be accepted of a national highway. There's a program put before the government, it's been accepted by the government, a $140 million program to duplicate the highway from Traralgon to Sale. And again, all we've seen committed to that program is $2 million. Another project that Gippsland would rather see get underway than a $950 one-off cash payment, which will be gone before Easter. The investment in natural gas reticulation is one way that we could be, and again I accept this is actually more of a state government responsibility, but judging by the program we've got before us, the state and federal boundaries have been blurred somewhat in this current package. Investing in natural gas reticulation is primarily a state responsibility, but it would deliver jobs to my community and help our small businesses to prosper and to compete with the metropolitan areas. I think a lot of metropolitan businesses take for granted that the gas from Gippsland is available for their use, but there's many small businesses in my community have no access to natural gas at the moment, and it's something that I've approached both the state and federal ministers about. And once again, the people of Gippsland would rather see something constructive rather than the $950 in their pocket, which is gone tomorrow. I think Gippsland I think the Prime Minister and the Treasurer are selling Gippsland as an all-Australian short by suggesting they'd rather just have this one-off payment than some longer-term investment in infrastructure. One of the key areas of the package which I believe where it lets down the people of Australia is in relation to small business support. I think the real focus of any package that we put together to the Australian public now should have a focus on jobs, and again this package misses the mark. I acknowledge that there are some tax breaks for small business, and that's a positive start. But if we're going to be splashing around a sum of $42 billion in just one package, we need a real focus on jobs, and particularly as a country-based Member of Parliament, jobs in rural industries and the small business sector. For example, again, there's nothing in this package to help secure the export markets for the dairy industry, which is faced with an uncertain future due to the price cuts and the protectionism of the European Union. Nothing in this package for rural industries whatsoever. There's nothing here to support the regional tourism industry, which staggers me. We've got the member for Eden Monaro in the chamber with me today, and I'd suggest the member would love to see some more funding for regional tourism to promote the great attractions of the Sapphire Coast. Sapphire Coast is a nice place, but the Gippsland coastal area is just a little bit better. The member for Eden Monaro disagrees. But there's nothing here. There's nothing here to support the regional tourism industry. I would support a massive boost in marketing of regional attractions to encourage Australians, perhaps this year, to put the local economy first and to take a holiday here in Australia. And I'm disappointed that the package, which could have focused on small business jobs, on tourism industry jobs, has missed the mark in that regard. Certainly, Speaker, the government could have reinstated the farm apprenticeship scheme and also the small business assistance program, which were both cut in the previous budget. It's very hard to believe that you're for jobs and you're for small business when you have a government prepared to cut such schemes in the last budget. There really could have been more investment in regional infrastructure and programs like the Regional Partnerships Initiative which has been sadly missed in a lot of regional communities since its disbandment by this government. We've had the inquiry. Now I think it's time to start rolling out funding for genuine projects which meet the tests and will be certainly strongly supported by members who represent regional electorates. Speaker, this package should have been all about jobs, and given my bias for regional communities, it should have been all about regional jobs. What the government is saying last year to what they're saying now is something that really is beyond belief. Last year we were talking about creating 250,000 jobs from these stimulus packages, but now they're only talking about supporting jobs, supporting 90,000 jobs. I fear that we're really just making this up as we go along. They don't know if this package is going to help jobs at all, and I'm not prepared to mortgage Australia's future on a bit of guesswork by the Treasurer and the Prime Minister. Gippslanders would rather have a job in the future than have a $950 bonus in their pocket in the next month or so. Gippslanders are telling me already that they would support a major investment infrastructure boost rather than just $950 in one bonus payment which will be gone before Easter. Speaker, even with a $42 billion package, even with a package of historic proportions, there are those who have managed to miss out. It's hard to believe that when you're throwing taxpayers' money around like confetti that some people can still miss out. But among them are the most vulnerable and those heavily impacted by the economic crisis, such as our self-funded retirees. There's not a cracker in this for them, not a cracker in this for the pensioners, the carers, the people with disabilities, we should be locking in a permanent increase in their support payments now and giving some certainty to the economy rather than the whim of one-off payments. What if this money is not enough? When's the next payment going to come? When is the next stimulus package? It's very easy. Anyone can make a hero of themselves going around spending like a drunken sailor, shouting in the bar when they're spending someone else's money. I said at the outset the package is not without merit, and I believe there are some good ideas in here, just as I do believe there are good ideas on both sides of the House to contribute to this debate, and that is why I'm most concerned that we've attempted to ram this package through with such a short amount of time for debate. The schools and education package is one area where I think there is probably unanimous support across the chamber. It's one of the most sensible components of this package. I'd like to perhaps ignore the rhetoric of members from opposite sides have suggested that the previous government wasn't interested in schools. Well, I'd suggest the Investing in Our Schools program was an outstanding initiative, and members on this side of the House would certainly support such a package going forward into the future. Members on both sides of the House understand the importance of investing in the future of our children, and it's the very essence, I believe, of this debate is what is that future we're going to provide for our young children. What concerns me most with this package is it discriminates against the smaller schools in regional areas by allocating them a smaller amount. And I fear that, again, that the federal government in this regard is actually bailing out our state governments, and we're going to end up hiding their failure to invest in the future of our public schools. There is no one, though, who's going to debate the point about whether we need to be investing more in our schools, but I think this is one of those times when a bit more discussion, negotiation between both sides of the House would have come up with a better package than just simply throwing massive amounts, $14.7 billion at the problem, and effectively bailing out the state government's failure to invest. The sheer magnitude of this program and the involvement of the state governments brings doubts to my mind whether it can actually be delivered. There's no one on this side of the House that has much confidence in the capacity of...
It being 2 p.m, the debate is interrupted in accordance with Standing Order 97. The debate may be resumed at a later hour. The member for Gippsland will have leave to continue speaking when the debate is resumed.
I recognise the member for Gippsland.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to rejoin the debate. And as I was saying, there is actually no one on this side of the House or in the broader public who has much confidence in the capacity of the state governments to deliver on the education and schools program either on time or on budget. And it was interesting in question time to hear the Minister for Agriculture lecturing me today about the needs of Gippslanders and the Maffra Secondary College. And it was a very unusual choice of examples by the Minister, given the debacle which surrounded the funding for the Maffra Secondary College project. The State Government of Victoria put out a press release announcing funding for the Maffra Secondary College, and then it said, whoops, slips, no go. There's actually no funding for Maffra Secondary College, and backed right away from the project. It only required some few street marches, petitions and campaigns by the local MPs and the community residents themselves to actually get the funding restored. So it's an unusual choice by the Minister if he's hoping to build any faith at all in the capacity of state governments to deliver on these projects under the education and funding program. But Gippslanders really do know how much the Minister cares for them anyway. He's visited the region 3 times, all in the lead up to the Gippsland by-election, and hasn't been seen since. We'd love to have him back, He's most welcome to come to Gippsland any time, particularly as our farmers are dealing with the ongoing struggles with the drought. But as I was saying earlier, Deputy Speaker, there is great support for investment in the education programs associated with this package. But the problem with it is there's no balance to the package. There's nothing there for the health needs of my community. There's nothing there in terms of the aged care needs, not even mentioned at all. I'm not one, and I do take up the comments from the member for New England who called for a bit of caution, and perhaps people take a bit of a slow down, take a breath about this whole debate, and given the importance of it. And I'm not one to completely discount the package and say it's all poor public policy, because I believe there's a lot of good policies in the package, and I've referred to a few of those earlier today. There are some good initiatives, but again I fear in the roads and transport area that we're to some extent just bailing out the state governments from their responsibilities. One particular package of interest is the $150 million for the boom gates to improve safety at level crossings. Now, there's no argument on either side of the House regarding the need to improve level crossings. We're talking about $150 million, though, for 200 projects, and right across Victoria there's probably 1,000 unmanned, or not even unmanned, unregulated crossings, which have been the subject of great community debate. I would believe we could force the state governments, in fact, to go dollar for dollar and match the funding, get 400 boom gates installed if that was the preference or the treatment for those particular level crossings. I think we're leaving the state governments off scot-free on their obligations in relation to the safety at level crossings. But there's a little bit of extra funding for the road black spot program, and as the Minister for Regional Development pointed out today, he would expect the Nationals to support that, and we certainly do support the additional funding in relation to the regional roads projects. It was the Nationals in conjunction with the Liberal Party which initiated Roads to Recovery, one of those programs, Roads to Recovery, which has stood the test of time and hasn't been disbanded by the current government. Roads to Recovery is one of those excellent programs where the local communities get to decide the local priorities, and I would hope that in this particular package there's some option for that to happen if the package is passed through the Senate later on. There is some good news also, I do believe, in the package in relation to some of the environmental aspects of the package, but again it's the sheer scale of the package and the lack of the negotiation or discussion with a broader community in terms of what is the most effective spend in this regard, which bothers me in relation to this whole package. There's no extra funding here, for example, for land care, which is the real practical labour-intensive programs. We're talking about job creation. This is one of the real opportunities for labour-intensive work in weed control, pest animal removal, erosion and revegetation works. It would create jobs and deliver real benefits to the environment right across regional Australia. I do accept the ceiling insulation program and the solar water rebates are both reasonable initiatives, but again, I just question the scale of the program. Is this the best way for us to be spending $42 billion as part of this initiative? And I do believe that, again, we have failed to negotiate on this package and involve the broader community in a debate when we have got the time to do so. Can we really afford the extent of these programs, and will it really stimulate the economy and create the jobs, which I believe should be, and the Prime Minister himself has indicated, is the main focus of this entire strategy. We have no evidence that the first package worked, and there's still no proof that this one will either. And while I'm on the environment, perhaps there's the little matter of actually delivering on previous promises. And my good friend, the Minister for Agriculture, I'm sorry to be talking about him in his absence, but the Minister has promised $3 million for the Gippsland Lakes, promised in November 2007. 13 months later, not a single cent has been delivered on the promise. We've exchanged correspondence on the issue. Apparently we're waiting for contracts. So for 13 months we're waiting for contracts for a $3 million project. We're talking about a $42 billion project to be rolled out over the next 4 years. I have very little confidence on the capacity of the government to deliver on that promise. The Gippsland Lakes funding that I'm referring to is a critical program which has widespread support across the community to reduce the nutrient flow into the Gippsland Lakes. It's an icon of the Gippsland region, and I urge the Minister to expedite that funding as soon as possible. So, given we couldn't even deliver $3 million on time, I have no reason to be confident that the rollout of the $42 billion will work, particularly once we involve the dysfunctional state governments. And we've all had experiences of the state government's failure to manage money properly in recent years. The housing and construction public program, particularly relating to the Defence Forces, has a lot of merit. As myself, as a member for Gippsland, the East Sale RAF base is a critical component of the regional economy, and you would be a madman not to suggest that improving the stock of Defence Force housing is not a good strategy. I'm certainly in support of that. But again, I just seek more time to negotiate these issues through with the government. There are elements of the package, as I've repeatedly said, which are quite good, and I can see how they deliver benefits in terms of jobs in the construction industry related to the building program. But on the overall scale of things, I'm stunned with a $42 billion package, and we're given 12 or 14 hours to debate it here today with no preparation whatsoever. And I think just it smacks of arrogance, and it's a discredit to the government itself. And really, the failure of this government to negotiate or to talk to others about it reflects their view that they actually know everything. I look at alternate viewpoints are being put in the public already. Michael Costa, the former New South Wales Treasurer, suggesting the government should focus its attention on providing an environment that supports business confidence. The quickest way for the government to restore business and consumer confidence is through tax cuts. That's in the Daily Telegraph today. So these are alternative ideas that we're talking about. When we're talking about a $42 billion package, they should be fully explored before we just rush headlong into this program. I do accept the need for a stimulus package, but not this one, and I'll be opposing the bill. I urge the government to go back to the drawing board, to slow down and to take the advice of the member for New England in that regard. Listen to the views of others and return with a realistic package we can all support. It's easy to be popular, to give away money we don't even have, but it's much harder to do the right thing and make the tough decisions.